Phantom Midnight. The sun dipped below the jagged horizon, painting the blocky world in hues of orange and deep violet. Kael, a seasoned wanderer with eyes accustomed to the shifting light of countless twilight hours, felt a familiar ache settle deep within his bones. For 3 nights, sleep had eluded him. 3 nights spent traversing desolate plains, scaling treacherous mountains, and delving into lightless caverns in search of a fabled, enchanted stronghold. His inventory, though well-stocked, with potent potions and gleaming diamond tools, offered no remedy for the insidious fatigue that now gnawed at his resolve. He had established a small, temporary camp in a sheltered overhang, a roaring campfire spitting embers against the encroaching darkness. Usually, a few stray skeletons might rattle into view, or the hiss of a creeper would precede its explosive farewell. Tonight, however, the air felt different, heavy, expectant. A low, guttural screech pierced the stillness, not from the ground, but from the inky blackness above. Kael's hand instinctively tightened around the hilt of his sword. Then they appeared. Not one, not two, but a whole squadron of shadowy, manta-like creatures, their eyes glowing with a malevolent emerald light. Phantoms. Kael had faced them before, the spectral guardians of the sleepless. But never like this. Never, in such overwhelming numbers. They circled, a living vortex of leathery wings and razor-sharp claws, their screeches a discordant symphony of hunger. He ducked, rolled, and parried, his shield deflecting their initial dive-bombing attacks. The precise movements honed over years of survival were now fueled by sheer will, each swing of his sword a desperate, practiced effort. He felled a handful, watching their ethereal forms dissolve into wisps of smoke. But for every one dispatched, 2 more seemed to materialize from the fathomless void. This was no ordinary nocturnal harassment. This was an assault, relentless and coordinated, as if some unseen conductor directed their phantom orchestra. Kael knew he couldn't fight them all. Not for long. His exhaustion was a heavy cloak, threatening to smother his every sense. He needed shelter, a place to regroup and understand this unprecedented aggression. With a final, desperate flurry, he broke free of the swirling attack, sprinting across the uneven terrain, the chilling whispers of the phantoms, a cold breath on his neck. He ran for what felt like an eternity, the moon a distant mocking eye above him. His only hope lay in finding some form of civilization, or at least a defensible structure. As luck, or perhaps a strange twist of fate, would have it, a flickering light soon appeared in the distance. A village. A small cluster of humble homes, nestled precariously on the edge of a deep ravine. As he drew closer, he noticed something unsettling. The village was eerily quiet. No jovial hums of the usual villagers, no playful antics of their children. The torches flickered weakly, casting long, dancing shadows, but revealing no one outside. Every door was barred, every window shuttered. It was a ghost town, not by absence, but by profound, terrified silence. A phantom swooped low, its claws grazing his shoulder, leaving a burning trail. Kael gritted his teeth, his grip on his sword wavering. He spotted a fortified building, larger than the rest, its walls thick with cobbled layers, a makeshift tower rising from its center. Hope, frail but persistent, spurred him forward. He hammered on the sturdy oak door, but no one answered. The phantoms began to circle again, their numbers swelling. He had to force his way in. With a powerful shoulder slam, he splintered the wood, squeezing through the narrow gap. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of stale bread and fear. A single, trembling villager, huddled in a corner, his face gaunt, eyes bloodshot and wide with an almost insane terror. This was not the usual, calm, portly tradesman. This villager was thin, his clothes ragged, his normally placid expression replaced by one of profound exhaustion and paranoia. He didn't scream, didn't flee, but merely stared at Kael, pointing a trembling finger toward a crude, sprawling map scratched into the dirt floor. Kael knelt, ignoring the phantoms now clawing at the reinforced windows, their screeches muffled but insistent. The map was rudimentary, depicting the village and the surrounding terrain. But what caught his eye were the countless chaotic scribbles, like frantic charcoal marks, centered around a specific distant point, a towering spire of dark stone, barely visible on the horizon. The villager, seeing Kael's gaze fall upon the spire, began to shake his head vigorously, then nodded, then pointed again, his movements desperate and erratic. He whimpered, a low guttural sound, pressing his hands against his ears as if trying to block out an unbearable noise only he could hear. Kael observed the villager's frantic gesticulations. The old man pointed at the roof, then at his own eyes, then back at the spire, making frantic, fluttering motions with his hands. It was clear. The phantoms weren't just targeting the sleepless Kael. They were fixated on that spire, and the villager had been sleepless for far longer, a witness to their relentless siege. The problem wasn't Kael's exhaustion. It was something at the spire. A new surge of determination coursed through Kael, overriding his fatigue. He had stumbled upon a mystery far grander than a lost stronghold. He needed to find out what was at that spire. He gestured reassuringly to the terrified villager, then began to reinforce the door with heavy crates, buying himself precious time. The air in the house grew heavy with the smell of ozone, and a faint, high-pitched hum vibrated through the floorboards. The phantoms were growing more agitated, as if some unseen force was driving them to a frenzied pitch. Armed with this newfound purpose, Kael waited for the first faint glimmer of dawn, then slipped out of the fortified hut. The phantoms, though still present, seemed to retreat slightly with the rising sun, their forms less distinct in the growing light. He didn't waste a moment, setting a course directly for the dark spire. The journey was arduous. The terrain grew harsher, the land more desolate. Twisted oak trees stood like skeletal sentinels, and the very grass seemed to wither beneath his boots. As he approached the spire, the hum he had felt in the villager's house intensified, a low thrumming that resonated in his chest. He also noticed something else. The ground around the spire was littered with broken remnants of other adventurers' gear, shattered shields, corroded swords, and tattered maps. Clearly, others had come this way, driven by curiosity or desperation, and none had succeeded. The spire itself was less a natural formation, and more an ancient, decaying structure. It was composed of dark, obsidian-like blocks, strangely smooth and unnerving, unlike anything he had seen. At its apex, Kael discerned a faint pulsing glow. He scaled the treacherous blocks, his pickaxe finding purchase in the weathered stone, his ascent slow and deliberate. The higher he climbed, the more intense the hum became, a high-frequency whine that set his teeth on edge. As he neared the top, the pulsing light grew stronger, illuminating a small circular platform. In the center, half buried in the strange dark stone, was a bizarre contraption. It was a complex device of polished blackstone and netherite, pulsing with an erratic violet energy. At its core, a single pulsating orb of insomnia spun rapidly, its surface crackling with unholy energy. This was no natural phenomenon. This was a machine, deliberately crafted, and it was radiating an amplified aura of sleeplessness, drawing every phantom in the region like moths to a demonic flame. A tattered, partially decayed journal lay open beside the device, its pages filled with frantic, nearly illegible scribblings. Kael, even in his exhausted state, recognized the familiar scrawl of a long-lost explorer known for his ambitious, often reckless experiments. The journal spoke of harnessing the essence of the sleepless, of bending the spectral phantoms to one's will, of an ultimate guardian. It seemed this misguided adventurer had tried to create an ultimate phantom lure, perhaps as a defense, or even a weapon, and had instead created a monstrous beacon that was driving the phantoms and the villagers to madness. Kael's exhaustion momentarily vanished, replaced by a surge of pure, focused anger. This reckless folly was tormenting an entire region. He raised his diamond pickaxe, its enchanted tip gleaming with an inner light, and brought it down with all his might onto the pulsating orb of insomnia. The orb shrieked, a sound that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality, and exploded in a shower of violet sparks and dark smoke. The hum died instantly, replaced by an unsettling silence. The structure shuddered, cracks spiderwebbing across its surface. Above him, the sky, which had been thick with phantoms, now seemed to clear with impossible speed. The remaining spectral creatures paused mid-flight, their glowing eyes dimming, their forms wavering. Then, as if a spell had been broken, they turned, no longer attacking, no longer menacing, but dispersing, fading into the distance like a forgotten nightmare. They simply flew away, back to the hidden reaches of the night sky, their unnatural aggression gone. A profound weariness washed over Kael, a heavier, more potent exhaustion than before. With the threat gone, his body finally surrendered to the incredible fatigue he had fought for so long. He carefully descended the crumbling spire, each step a monumental effort. He stumbled back toward the village, the world blurring at the edges. He found the villager still huddled in his fortified home, but his eyes, though still bloodshot, held a glimmer of something other than terror. He looked at Kael, then outside, then back at Kael, and offered a slow, deliberate nod, a silent acknowledgement of the peace Kael had brought. Kael managed a tired nod in return. Then, with the last vestiges of his strength, he found a relatively safe, secluded corner in the villager's humble abode. He lay down on the rough floor, his diamond sword still clutched loosely in his hand. The weight of 3 sleepless nights, the terror of the phantom midnight, and the adrenaline of his discovery finally overwhelmed him. As the quiet hum of the world settled around him, no longer broken by spectral screeches or the ominous thrum of an arcane machine, Kael closed his eyes. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the deep, refreshing oblivion of true rest claimed him, banishing the phantom terrors of the night. The sun, finally high in the sky, cast its benevolent rays through the cracked doorway, illuminating a world that had, at last, found its peaceful dawn.